Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Ages of Chaos once again. There's quite a few of them, going round at the moment. That's because Games Workshop are just chucking them out. They really are. Lots of updated books, Battletomes for AOS, lots of stuff for 40k, mostly through Psychic Awakening. Of course, we're going to be getting very, very soon. The pre-orders for Psychic Awakening Ritual of the Damned are coming up, which is going to be, I'm sure, going to be great. Still haven't seen very much about what the Thousand Sons are going to be getting or what they're doing. It's going to be interesting when those rumors come out. But for this video, we're going to be taking a look at the latest Battletome for Age of Sigmar, which is Slaves to Darkness. Oh my god. Well, ladies and gents, this is one of those weird ones. This is like, you know when they updated the Skaven and the Beasts of Chaos, where there was already an existing miniatures range, and all they did was added bits into it, and enhanced it, and then used a lot of pre-existing miniatures to bulk out the army. That's kind of what this is. It's an old army updated with a new book, and just slightly rejigged to make it fit into Age of Sigmar. And what I always find surprising when they do this, they don't necessarily have to throw at it what they throw at those armies that are coming from scratch or that are entirely redone. Like, for example, when the Caradron Overlords first came out, that's an entirely new miniatures range. When the Idoneth Deepkin come out, that's an entirely new miniatures range with attendant, entirely new mythology, background, symbolism, all of that stuff. There's loads of work to do. For the Beasts of Chaos, a lot of that stuff already existed. They were just slightly rejigging the army to make it fit into AOS. And yet, they chucked so much at it. There's so much effort in that book that it's one of the best battle tomes you can get for AOS. And the Slaves to Darkness book is exactly that. They've done it again. They've done exactly that. What the Slaves to Darkness essentially is, as the name suggests, because of course Slaves to Darkness was the name of the very, 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 very first Chaos book ever, way back when. If you go back to the Ages of Chaos episode 1, we're talking about Slaves to Darkness. And here we are talking about it again. Slaves to Darkness it's a love letter to what Chaos used to be. Basically, you know, it's your undivided Chaos force. It's what Chaos used to be way back in the days of Fantasy Battle. Those of you who are inveterate enough to remember what Chaos armies in Fantasy Battle were like, where you had your ranks of Chaos Warriors, of Chaos Marauders, your Chaos Knights, you're backed up by big monsters, and your heroes riding chimeras and dragons and all that sort of thing. That's what this book essentially is. But what it does, it takes those forces and it rejigs them slightly to make them fit into the mortal realms in terms of their background. The background in this book is absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It's obviously, a lot of it is based around Archaon and his efforts from the very beginning, from the end of the old world up to now. This gives you the complete history of what Archaon is doing and what he's up to now. In fact, it moves the story on slightly and tells you what Archaon and his forces have been up to. These are not like the god-specific books. This represents forces that are a bit more individualistic. The god-specific books, like your Disciples of Tzeentch, your Blades of Khorne, your Maggotkin of Nurgle, and the Hedonites of Slaanesh, they represent forces that are entirely consumed. They are subsumed by their god's identity, as it were, and have received the various blessings that come with that. This is not that. This is describing what humanity is generally like in the mortal realms, because what you haven't really gotten a feeling of up until this book is that the vast majority of humanity in the mortal realms worship chaos in one shape or form. The worship of chaos is many and varied and multifaceted. It's like traditional gods and ideologies and tribal mythologies that have sustained down generations and even down centuries and millennia, but which ultimately they're worshipping some aspect or form of a chaos power. That's what this book is describing. It's all about the tribes of people that are out there in the wilds and the wastelands of the mortal realms, outside of cities and the like. and how they function, you get a real sense of what their cultures are like. Arguably for the first time ever, you get a sense of what the cultures of chaos are actually like, and it's really interesting. A lot of that comes from Aaron Dembski Bowden. Aaron Dembski Bowden has done several short stories that are in this book, and I've got to say, they are some of the best bits of background you will ever find in one of these battle tomes. There's one called Knight of the Fifth Circle, and what that describes very briefly is the life of a young man who is born to one of these tribes, but who is signaled out for glory. He's almost like predestined from the moment he's born to become one of the Varangard, one of the ultimate champions of Archaon. And what this describes is not only his history, but the way he loses himself, the way his sense of self is subsumed by that destiny. And by the end, there's hardly anything left. There is just the Varangard personality and the sort of prescribed purpose that Archaon gives him. It's really wonderful, I've got to say. Really, really cool. There's another one later on which describes it's a fight between a demon princess of Slaanesh, so a chaos follower that has reached their ultimate goal and has become immortal, and a one of the Stormcast Eternals. However, this Stormcast Eternal, it transpires, used to be this demon prince's sister when they were both mortal, when they were both alive. So they've both achieved a state of a kind of immortality, but now they're endlessly reborn and have to endlessly fight one another in different guises. It's so cool. My favourite in the entire book is one called The Weight of Sacrifice. And what The Weight of Sacrifice describes is a shaman of a tribe, a chaos worshipping tribe who worship the gods as a sort of pantheon. And what this really goes into depth about is the fact that this guy, he's not a lunatic, he's not a maniac, he's not a narcissist or an egocentric. What he does for the gods, because that's what his purpose is, that's what he's for. And it's about what he has to sacrifice in order to appease the gods, and what that means, what sacrifice means. So early on in the story, he's looking at his wife and he's talking about how much he adores her, how much he genuinely loves her, and that's the sacrifice. Of course, she makes an excellent sacrifice because it has to mean something. He has to genuinely love her. His son, later on, is he's sort of predestined to become the future of the tribe. This shaman has seen that his son encapsulates the hopes and dreams of the tribe and will be the one to lead it to glory later on. He's the next sacrifice because, of course, his son becomes a symbolic sacrifice. He's not only someone that the sorcerer loves, but someone that represents abstraction. So he sacrifices not only his son, but the entire future of the tribe. And at the very end, he's forced to sacrifice the entire tribe to the gods, and he ends sort of screaming. He's desolate, he's got nothing, and he ends screaming, "Is this enough?" at the skies. And it's really wonderful. I mean, it really shows you what life under these cultures is like, and what walking the path to glory actually means, what you have to give up. So it's everything worldly. You've got to be prepared to give up everything you care about. That's the point, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. We also have, obviously, an expanded army list, and something I absolutely friggin' love in this army book is they've taken everything that's even vaguely chaos in the miniatures range. So all the stuff from Warcry, the monsters, the creatures, all of the various cults you can now include in your Chaos Army, and it's absolutely stunning. It's really, really wonderful. It means that Chaos Armies now are insane. The amount of stuff you can do in order to structure a Chaos Army. Bearing in mind, this army book also plays really cleverly with keywords. The way to think about it is, this is a core rulebook. This book sits at the center of the Chaos Star, yeah? And all of the other various Chaos books occupy different arrows on that Chaos Star. And you can essentially construct Chaos Armies in any which way, shape, or form you like. If you want to include units from the Disciples of Tzeentch in a Slaves to Darkness book, you can do it. If you want to go the other way and include bits from Slaves to Darkness in Maggotkin of Nurgle or Hedonites of Slaanesh, you can do it. And it's not just the case that you can include detachments. They've structured the keywords in this book such that, for example, if you take a Chaos Sorcerer, a Mortal Chaos Sorcerer from Slaves to Darkness, and put them in a Hedonites of Slaanesh book, they will benefit from a lot of the aura abilities and a lot of the... They can also get psychic, wizardly powers, spells from the Hedonites of Slaanesh book. It's really clever. So if you want to make a classic Chaos army like it used to be in the really old days when it's just a little bit of everything, where it's explosion in a paint factory, go for it. You can do it. You've also got a wonderful Marks of Chaos system, which, by the by, they are going to have to transplant over to 40k because it would work just as well in 40k, whereby you can give most of the units in the army a keyword, which is either undivided or the names of one of the Chaos Gods, which means they're marked by that Chaos God. And if those units are within range of a hero or a character with the same mark of Chaos, it unlocks special aura abilities on the battlefield, and those auras escalate depending on what type of character you're using. It's absolutely brilliant. On top of that, we've got wonderful new updated miniatures for some of the classic units. So new Chaos Warriors, new Chaos Knights, really the emblematic cause of a Chaos army, a classic Chaos army. And that's wonderful. I've got to say, the new Chaos Warriors, it's just amazing. The kit looks just incredible. I'm going to be getting some of them. The Knights too. The Knights are beautiful. The Chaos Lord on Karkadrak, which is a big new semi-demonic mount for your Chaos Lords. Absolutely wonderful. I am anticipating you are going to see some of the most creative, interesting Chaos forces you have ever seen in the fantasy battle game at this point, because now Chaos players can go mad. They can buy all the books and they can just chuck them together and create the most interesting, inventive armies you can possibly think of. I am very, very pleased. And of course, we have the updated Disciples of Tzeentch coming next, so it's going to get even better. So Chaos in AOS, I would argue, is probably in the best place it's ever been in the fantasy battle systems. I can't think of a time when it's been more interesting. It's had such a battlefield presence, and it's been as fluid and creative as it currently is. So quite frankly, guys, thumbs up. You've just got to start transplanting some of this over to the 40k and we'll be well away. So when next we come back, ladies and gents, we'll probably be taking a look at the Disciples of Tzeentch book. So until then, bye bye.